Hello and welcome to the Practice Within podcast with your host, Amanda Elle. If you are listening to this on a podcast platform, then you do not see the little ears in the corner of the video on YouTube, which is Lily. Lily is joining me today. It is a rainy and stormy day, so she is a little scared, so she's going to hang out with us. Hopefully she just hangs out, but if you hear any noise in the background, it is Lily. And this is the first episode on YouTube. So if you prefer to watch podcasts, you can head over there. The link is down below and check it out. Check out Lily's little ears in the bottom corner of the screen. So today we are talking about food. So food is like such a hot topic. Everybody wants to talk about it. There are so many trendy diets out there right now. I've tried a lot of them. There are some that I will not try. And in general, I think that there's a lot of stress and confusion about food just due to society and marketing and everything that we learned growing up and all of the things. There's so much confusion. And so I'm here to share my experience, share my thoughts on all of that. And I hope to invite you to relax into whatever diet you choose at this point in time, because I don't believe there is one right diet. I don't believe there is one diet for everybody, and I don't believe that everything will work for everybody. So wherever you're at, whatever feels good for you physically, mentally, and emotionally in regards to food in that point in time is exactly what you should do. So there's a lot of different ways I could go with this, and I'm going to hit them all, but I want to go back and start at the beginning and just give you like a little recap of my diet and lifestyle over the years. So I was like 20 years old when I ate my first vegetable and fruit as well. I was not a healthy eater by any means. I ate processed food growing up: chicken nuggets, boxed mashed potatoes, macaroni and cheese, Kraft macaroni and cheese. That's about it. I didn't really stray too far from that, and candy and sugary cereals. And I had a ton of digestive problems growing up. I had acid reflux, I had IBS, I had all of these things happening. And like I went to Western doctors and they were like, yeah, you just have these things and there's really nothing you can do except for you can take this pill. And so I did that for a while with the acid reflux. I was on medication for it and it helped a little bit until it didn't. And ultimately it was not helping at all. But at the time I didn't know that. And so it was around 20 years old, maybe a little bit before that, but around that age, I started to research things on the internet. I was running a lot at that time, and I was getting into yoga. I was doing a yoga teacher training. I was getting ready to do a yoga teacher training, but I was practicing a lot of yoga and getting into meditation and journaling and all of that stuff that is so foundational to me today. And naturally, food just started to follow. So it just started to happen as well. And I was sick and tired of feeling sick and tired with my body. And I recognized at that point that doctors were not going to help me. And so I went to the internet and I was like, how can I help my digestion? And I came across gluten-free. And this was all the way back in 2013. So this was like a very fringy thing back then. Now it's everywhere, of course, but it was super fringy back then. And I researched it and I was like, okay, I'm going to go gluten-free for 2 weeks. If I feel better, I will remove it. If I don't, I can add it back in and keep searching. So I removed it, and it didn't even take 2 weeks for me to realize that I was not adding that back in, and that it made me feel so much better to not have that in my diet. And I wanted to go further. I wanted to see what else could potentially be causing me these issues. And I recognized the power of food as medicine. And so I came across ultimately veganism, dairy-free, which led me to veganism. I watched some vegan documentaries. I watched Earthlings, and like, that was it. That was it for me. I basically changed my entire life because I could not participate in the factory farming industry anymore. I never really thought about where food came from. I never made the connection. I never learned that. It just wasn't something that I considered because most foods my entire life were coming from boxes and weren't real foods anyways. And so I cut everything out, all animal products. And I felt amazing for like 3 years. And then I didn't feel amazing anymore. And I went on this journey, which led me to not being gluten-free and then eventually not being vegan anymore. And I continued to struggle with my health back and forth, up and down, round and round for basically until last year. And there's a lot that goes into that. And it's long stories and not directly connected to food necessarily, but ultimately, at this point in time, I have come across macros. And I mean, I've known about macro diets, macro counting for years, but I have a very obsessive personality. And I always thought that I couldn't do that because I've counted calories in the past and it was not in like a positive way. It was like, how few can I eat type of thing. And so doing that and just being obsessive with things in general, not in a healthy way, just like very OCD type of way, I didn't think macro counting would be good for me. But after a very traumatic 2020 and a very, very traumatic 2021, and then last year, like processing all of that and getting to a place of stability, basically, 2023 is the year of getting it together and thriving and figuring things out truly once and for all. And so last year, I started to gain a lot of weight and I was like, I wasn't focused on it. Like truly, I was not focused on it because I was focused on feeling better because I felt so horrible for 2.5 years, basically. So I was not focused on that at all. I didn't even realize it until there was one night Mitch and I went to TJ Maxx and he was like, try on this dress. And it was like a fitted, like bodycon type of dress. And I was like, no, that's not my style, regardless. No. And he was like, try it on. Let's see it. And so I did. And like, I was like, this looks horrible. And it sent me through this huge spiral of like, what am I going to do? How am I going to lose weight? Oh my gosh, everything. And like, it's a very physical focus for sure, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's very good as long as you can keep it in that healthy range. A lot of times we go out of the healthy range and that creates unhealthy habits and then you're not doing good. But if you can keep that want and desire to look good physically in the healthy range, then I think it's awesome. I think the body positivity movement is like a good thing, but also a bad thing because it keeps people accepting of not being the highest versions of themselves. And I don't think that's good. I mean, I like to hold myself to high standards. I like to hold others to high standards. And I believe that we are all capable so much. And the body positivity movement erases that and keeps us stuck and stagnant and lazy and accepting of victim mentality, basically. And so I went on this journey where I was not eating a lot of meat anymore because I physically wasn't feeling good either. I was experiencing acid reflux again and just all kinds of stuff like that. And so I went on this journey of removing the meat and eating more plant-based again. And then I was not doing that anymore. And I was like hungry all of the time. And I couldn't figure out why I was so hungry all of the time. And it just, nothing was making really any sense at all. And so in April, I believe it was April, I finally agreed with Mitch to start counting macros. And I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm doing it. We're doing the macro thing. It's a big deal. I don't know how it's going to go because I know my tendencies of obsessing, but I need to give it a try. So I joined some Facebook groups, as you do. Like, I don't like Facebook in general. I don't really scroll a lot, but I love Facebook for Facebook groups. I think the Facebook groups are like so valuable. They're so awesome. So I joined some Facebook groups about macros and stuff like that. And I started to read and learn from other people's experiences. And I was like, okay, I am for sure on this. So calculated out my macros and started. And it has been, is it 9 weeks, 10 weeks, 9 or 10 weeks? I think this week is 10 weeks. So today starts 10 weeks. It has been 10 weeks. I've lost like 5 pounds, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I don't really have that much to lose either, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. Maybe like 5 more pounds, but I physically feel stronger. I look stronger. I feel better physically inside as well. My moods are more stable. I haven't checked my blood sugar. That's on my list of things to do. I'm sure my blood sugar is more stable too. And just everything is just very stable and feeling good. I eat about 5 times a day now. Like prior to this, I was eating 2, maybe 3 times a day. And what I have learned is that I was not eating enough. I was not eating enough at all. It was crazy to me. I would input what I was eating. I weighed everything out. I would put it into my little tracker on my phone, my app, and I realized that I was eating like 1,200 calories a day. And I'm like, whoa, I have been under eating extremely. No wonder I'm starving all the time. No wonder I feel stressed and anxious and unstable. No wonder. It all makes sense because I was not fueling my body. I was not feeding myself. I was struggling in every aspect because I was hungry. I was truly hungry. And if you see the ears in the corner, Lily knows the word hungry. She's like, hungry? What? I'm hungry. But I completely changed the way that I was eating, the amounts that I was eating. And I would get to the end of the day, and I still do this. I get to the end of the day and I'm like, I've only ate 1,500 calories today. I know that's not enough. I'm training for a marathon. I exercise consistently. I live a pretty active lifestyle. I have a sedentary job. I have a computer-based job. I'm on the computer all of the time, but I do that standing. I take it outside, and like I work out while I'm working too. And like I'm pretty active throughout my days, and I was not eating enough to sustain that activity. And I was feeling it. And now that I'm eating consistently enough food for me, I'm feeling so much better. So macros have changed my life. I mean, I hate when people say that, and I say it a lot too, but like, it's just like, yeah, okay, right. Counting food changed your life, but it truly has changed my life. Truly, because it ripples out into everything else that I do and every way that I am in every circumstance. My goal is to lose a couple more pounds and then to get to a maintenance phase. So I will be upping my calories even more. But right now I am still in a deficit and I am still plugging along, and I love it. I love it from a place of empowerment and a place of recognizing and respecting my body, because when I was not eating enough, I felt like I was doing a disservice to myself and to my body and to everybody around me, because I was unable to show up as my best self because I couldn't get there because I was hungry and I was unstable in that way. And now it's completely changed and shifted, and it's the opposite of that. And it's all because I'm eating enough. And I am not strict 100% of the time. If anything, I am so much more lax and free with my diet now than I have been ever, maybe. Typically one day or like one meal a week Mitch and I will go out and we'll eat whatever we want. We get appetizers and we get like a meal. And sometimes I want something a little healthy, and other times we're eating burgers and fries and nachos and stuff. And then we always get ice cream or like some type of dessert. And like, I find that to be so important too, because I think if I'm strict 100% of the time, if I'm strict all the time, then when I stray is when problems happen, is when the obsession starts to kick in. But now that I'm incorporating some freer foods, some less healthy foods each week, I don't have that, because it levels everything out, and it gives me that satisfaction of eating the burgers and the fries and the nachos and all of the things, while also respecting my body and fueling it 95% of the time with high vibrational, truly nourishing, nutrient dense foods. And if I want something throughout the week that isn't quote unquote healthy, like I hate a healthy and unhealthy, because then you get into like the orthorexic mindset, which is a whole other story because I have been there as well. But if you eat something that's like a sweet or something like that, I just incorporate it into my macros and move on with my life. And that doesn't happen very often, because I find that when I have that Saturday, let's say Saturday, we have that Saturday where we go out and we have restaurant food, I look forward to that, and I am truly in that moment and cherishing that so much more than if I'm eating restaurant food or processed foods throughout the week or whatever it may be. It brings sacredness into that experience. It brings a sense of intention and empowerment into that experience, because I am choosing to eat those foods in that point in time. And that is true freedom. So many people, and I have been there in the past, so many people have the experience of food controlling them. And I believe it's because we're undernourished, we're underfed, and we are so twisted with our mindset around what is good and bad in the diet realm. And being extremely healthy and strict all of the time is something that is sought after and something that is rewarded. And that's where the orthorexic piece comes in, because when you are eating healthy 100% of the time, you're constantly declining the cake at the birthday party, and you're constantly getting a salad when you go out to eat, and you're constantly not getting the ice cream and all of the things. That is awesome to an extent. But where the magic comes in is, can you do that? But then can you go out and get an ice cream every once in a while and truly be okay with it? Because if you can't, then there's something to look at there, I believe, because food and living in that way is just an aspect of the human experience. And I am all for the sacredness and the intention and the depth of a spiritually led life. But we are humans. We came here as humans. And I think it is so important to live that human experience fully, in whatever way that looks like for you. For me, it looks like going and getting some homemade ice cream that is like so delicious every week. For me, it looks like sometimes going and getting burgers and fries, other times just going out to eat and getting whatever I want, just having the experience of going and eating, even if it is a salad. And it's just so freeing to be in that space. And I think that macros can help you to get to that space, because just seeing everything on paper is so much more different. But it's not only just the macros and seeing that on paper, because you can still have those orthorexic tendencies, because I think Instagram is a huge culprit for that. The way that you have learned to eat and to be with your diet throughout those you have observed whenever you were growing up, and what you have absorbed with what they have said and made it to be your own story. And I I just believe that like the freedom and the full experience of eating food, whatever that may be, whenever that may be, is so important and such an aspect of a spiritual practice. Because I always think about like monks or something like that, where they just like meditate forever. Like basically, like anybody who's like meditating in a cave or like a ashram or whatever it is for forever, that is their life. Anybody who is doing that, I'm like, wow, that's beautiful. And obviously that's their path and that is great. But I think most of us are here to live the human experience. And that involves the freedom of food. That involves treating your body as a sacred temple and feeding it fresh, locally sourced, organic, grass-fed, the highest quality possible food 90% of the time. And really steeping yourself in that experience and doing it from a place of love for yourself and for the world around you. That is magic. But the other key component of that is going out to eat with friends or family and actually getting something. Because there have been so many times where I'm like, yeah, I'm just here and like, I'm just here for the company, but like you are still removed from the experience and it's not the same. I have been there. I've done it. I've talked to others who have also done it. It is not the same as if you are submersed in the same experience as those people, which is eating the food. And I find it to be so important to loosen our grip a little bit around food because like I mentioned earlier, I was gluten-free for 3 years and then I stopped. And when I stopped, I just felt like a deep desire that I needed to eat gluten. Like seriously, I don't even know. But I felt that. And so my ex and I, we went to a burger place and I got a burger and fries and a vegan milkshake. And I ate the bun of the burger and I was like totally fine. I felt better than I was feeling for weeks and months. And I give credit to the experience of like, okay, I'm gonna eat that burger and it's like so delicious. Oh my gosh, this bun is so good. Like so good. And being fully present for that experience was so healing for me. It was more healing than not eating the gluten. And there were other times in my life where I was gluten-free, but right now I eat gluten. I don't eat it often. I don't eat it at home really ever. But if I go out to eat, I eat it. I eat whatever I want now. I'm very lax and free with that. But that doesn't mean that I'm eating junk food all of the time. I'm sourcing higher quality foods, but I'm sourcing them where there's still things that I'm not eating on a daily basis, like a burger and fries. Like I'm not eating bread on a daily basis personally. And I will go out and I will eat bread. And it is like the best experience ever because I make it the best experience ever. And just one more thing with that is like the presence of eating food. And this is something that I really struggle with in my daily life is being present with your food. So I eat a lot while I'm working at the computer. I eat a lot driving. I eat a lot just not sitting and eating. And I know from research, from personal experience, from everything that I have learned that presence with your food is so healing to your digestion. It is a key component of digesting because you cannot digest in a stressed state. You have to be in a parasympathetic state to digest your food. If you're working, you're probably not there. If you're driving, you're probably not there. If you are on a stressful phone call or if you're like at a family dinner and the family is like not peacefully coexisting with each other, then you're probably not there. And one thing that I notice and I see with a lot of people is when you go out to eat, oftentimes you're there. And I think that's another key component of the magic of digesting and health and food is the presence and the enjoyment of it and the state that you're in mentally and emotionally when you're consuming things. Crucial. It is crucial. And it's something that I'm constantly working on, but it's something to bring to top of mind, because just bringing some awareness to it and seeing if it's true for you and seeing how it lands for you can be so eye-opening. And so I am, like I said, this starts week 10 of macro counting. And I'm going to keep going with it. I think it's great. I think it has revolutionized the experience that I have with my body and with food. And I finally, this sounds ridiculous, but I finally have found a place and a style of eating that truly makes me feel good. And yeah, I still have some work to do with my digestion, but I think it's a lot more stress related than it is food related. And that is a constant work in progress for me. So just recognizing like the components of digestion and food and health go so much deeper than just digestion, food, and health. There's so much involved with it. A lot of it is stress. A lot of it is mindset. A lot of it is stuff like that is harder to touch. It's a lot easier to remove gluten than it is to address your beliefs, your deep-seated beliefs about food that you learned when you were a child. Like, it's a lot easier to just be like, okay, I'm going to stop eating gluten and then try that. But the magic happens when you really dig in to what you have going on and why it's going on and how it's going on, and get to the roots of it all. And I think that's about it. I think the take-home message is there is not one diet that fits everybody. There is not one magic removal of food that is going to change your life. It might improve it. It might help it. And in rare cases, that is true, with very rare specific situations. But in general, I see so many people going on elimination diets. I have been on elimination diets, and like maybe it works for a little bit and then it doesn't. And you're like, what's going on? And it's time to look deeper. It's time to truly bring that joy and presence back into food. It's time to do things differently, because the way that you live your life is the way that will emit from within. Everything that is within will be reflected outside, externally. And so if you're having problems with external things, it's time to look inwards and see where those problems are coming from and why they are presenting in the ways that they are. So with macros, like I said, no diet. I'm not doing any diet. I'm not following any way of eating. The freedom that I embody with the foods that I consume is the freedom that also reflects the way that I want to live my life. And it's also deeply connected. Like, I don't want to be stressful and restrictive and fearful of foods. Just like I don't want to be stressful and restricting and fearful of life. I want to let it flow. I want it to be free. I want to fully enjoy it, embody it, experience it, and be in it completely with true presence. That's what all of this comes back to. You could probably listen to the end of all of my podcast episodes, and I will say something about like presence is your superpower, basically. Presence is the way to everything because it is. And it's so powerful, but it's so hard to be in that all of the time, obviously. And we really can't be in that all of the time because that's another part of the human experience. But the more that we bring it back into our awareness, the easier it gets to continue to bring it back in. And when you start with food is something that we pick up at least 3 times a day. I hope you should be eating consistently, especially as a woman. Like, you got to be eating breakfast and you have to be eating consistently and enough. Because when that happens, everything starts to change. And if you bring presence into each meal, there are at least 3 times a day that you are being present with yourself and with your life. And that consistency will start to build and build and build and build and build. And before you know it, you're like, whoa, I've completely revolutionized my experience with food, my relationship with food. It is completely different now. What a gift. It's all because every meal that I sat down for, even if you just start with breakfast, start with 1 meal a day, and then work your way up to 2, and then 3, and then whatever. Like, if you just start with 1 meal a day, that's 7 times a week that you're being present. That's probably 7 more times a week that you're being present than you were in the past. And that is so powerful. So powerful. So, presence with your meals, making sure you're eating enough. Making sure you're eating enough of the right foods. There's so many. I was going to wrap this up, but like, I have to touch on this. The power of protein has changed my life, just like everything else that I'm talking about in this episode. But the power of protein is amazing, and making sure that you're getting enough protein is crucial. So I mean, everybody says, and I think it's a good rule of thumb, 1 gram of protein per body weight. So I am eating like 135 grams of protein right now. And at first I thought that would be really hard to achieve, but it's actually been pretty easy with tracking and making sure that I'm eating enough. If I don't eat enough throughout the day, then it's harder for me to get in my protein. But when I'm eating enough, it's not hard at all. So that is something that I have really reaped the benefits from, especially with my workouts, and just like feeling satiated in general, is eating enough protein. And I've recognized too, like, I am convinced that I was not able to lose weight because I was not eating enough. Because once I started to eat enough, I started to lose weight. And it is, I mean, I've gained muscle and lost fat, I guess is how we'll say it. But I have lost weight too. So it's like erasing everything that you thought you believed from media and like the women in your life growing up and any limiting beliefs. Like, erase all of those and try something new, start new, get into some macro groups on Facebook, or do some research on whatever you're researching on, and see people's experience. Because I'm just sharing mine. This is my personal experience. I am speaking extremely highly of macros. I'm sure they're not for everybody, but I do believe in general that they are for a lot of people in a lot of different times of life, and they can help you to get on the right track when it comes to seeing if you're eating enough, seeing if you're eating enough protein, and just like really bringing that presence and awareness into your food. Because if you are tracking everything, you're checking in with your food every time that you are eating. And that brings that presence back into that space. And once you have that, everything is possible. And with that, I think we'll end it here for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you could leave a rating and review, I would greatly appreciate it. And if you're on YouTube, thumbs up, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I would be so grateful for all of that. If you would like to work together one-on-one, the link for that is down below. You can check me out on Instagram, come say hi, and I will talk to you next week. Bye. Do you want to say goodbye? Here. You want to say goodbye? Say goodbye, Lily. Say bye.